Hello and welcome to Licensing Basics Academy, step number 3, development and prototyping. In this step, we're going to talk about prototyping, how to take that idea that you have, that you've come up with, that you've then analyzed in step number 2, and you've come to the conclusion that this is the product that you want to move forward with. So in this step, you're going to need to come up with a prototype. So we're going to talk about different types of prototyping and how to accomplish this. Let's get started. The first step in prototyping is visualizing your product. So you're going to want to write down all the details about your product. You're going to want to write down the materials that you think it's going to need, what colors you want to use, what are the mechanics of your product. Does it have any moving parts, and how they move, how they function. What technologies are needed to make your product do whatever it does. And finally, sketch a drawing of your product. So rough sketches are fine. Just getting an idea of how your product's going to look and function is the main part of this step. Proof of concept. So there's different types of prototypes. There's virtual, there's all sorts of different prototypes. Now, a proof of concept is a prototype that actually functions and does whatever it's supposed to do. It's proving that the concept will work. So having an actual working prototype that proves that your product will do what you claim it will do is necessary if your product is hard to understand or requires unknown technology or mechanics. So not every product needs a proof of concept. Here's an example of how you would decipher if your product needs a proof of concept. So in this case, we have a skateboard that hovers over the ground. Okay, if you've watched Back to the Future 2, you saw Marty McFly hovering over the ground on the hoverboard. So the hoverboard is gonna need more than just an idea and some explaining. You would need, if you develop the hoverboard, you would need an actual proof of concept to prove that this concept would actually work. So if your product is similar to the hoverboard, then you definitely need a proof of concept to prove to people that it will do what you say it's going to do. So this would be a more realistic product where you would not necessarily need a proof of concept. It's a skateboard that goes off-road. So in theory, this is actually an actual product, but if this product was not out and we wanted to develop a skateboard that could go off-road, well, we would simply think of a skateboard with larger wheels. And without even having to build a prototype, we can pretty much, from common sense, come to the realization that this is possible. Simply making some larger trucks and putting some larger wheels on a skateboard, it should do what you intend it to do. So you could get away with a virtual prototype on the skateboard that goes off-road. You could not get away with a virtual prototype for the hoverboard. So let's talk about some popular methods of prototyping. There's a lot of different methods, so I'm only naming a few here, but starting off, we got software. So there's different types of software that can create prototypes. We've got 3D printing. We've got something that I call Frankensteining, and I'll speak more about that in a minute. Injection molding, CNC machine, and vacuum forming. So these are a few of the methods of that you could use for prototyping. Let's talk about the virtual prototype. So we're assuming that we do not need a proof of concept, and so we're going to do a virtual prototype. Now, there's CAD drawings, okay, so a CAD computer-aided design. We've got photo editing. There's a lot of different photo editing softwares out there, and we got 3D renderings. So these are 3 of the software methods that you could use to prototype. The 3D rendering is a way to get you a 3D looking product that would actually look like the product but is not a physical product. 3D printing. So 3D printing in the last whatever years has become pretty popular. And the cost of the machines has come down quite a bit to where they are reasonably priced to own one of your own. It's a process in which material is joined or solidified under computer control to create a three-dimensional object. You can create just about anything with a 3D printer. The size is the only limitation, really, for 3D printing. Frankensteining. Okay, so dissecting existing products and piecing them back together to create a new product. On the left-hand side, that is the original Super Soaker. That was created with a bunch of PVC and different parts. That's what I would consider a Frankenstein prototype. On the right, you see from the movie Toy Story, a bunch of toys that the not-so-nice next-door neighbor created by taking apart toys and piecing them back together. Injection molding. Injecting molten material into a mold. So this is a pretty popular method of prototyping. A lot of things can be made from injection molding. CNC machining. The automation of machine tools by means of computer executing pre-programmed sequences of machine-controlled commands. So this is a good way to make metal products. They start with a lump of metal, and they can be cut into many different products. Vacuum forming. A sheet of plastic is heated, then stretched onto a mold and forced against the mold by a vacuum. So as you can see in the video, you have a sheet of plastic that is heated up, and it is placed on a mold, and then the suction sucks the plastic down over the mold to create the desired shape. So here's a few options for you. So the DIY, do-it-yourself option, or professional, or both. DIY, so maybe you're pretty handy with tools, or maybe you have a 3D printer and you can create a prototype that looks good and actually functions. Then that would be a great option for you. The professional option, so you can hire a graphic artist, an engineer, seamstress, or machinist to make your prototype that looks good and functions. Or there's the combination of both. Maybe you need to hire a professional for the virtual prototype, but you can create the functioning actual prototype. This would be a good example if, like for example, the Super Soaker. So the Super Soaker, you can create the actual product using PVC and some other things, but it doesn't look so great. So that's when you would hire a professional to come up with a virtual prototype that you would couple with your actual working prototype. So the proof of concept. So that's where you can have the proof of concept, and then you can have the virtual prototype that gives you that look and feel of what the finished product would be. And then vice versa, maybe you hire a professional to build the functional prototype, but you're able to do the virtual prototype because you have some skills with 3D rendering. So there's a few of the options of how you can create your prototype. What are some of the materials that you can use? There's really no limit to the tools that you can use to create a prototype, but here's just a few examples. So we have wood, we have clay, we have cloth, PVC, screws, shape lock, and glue. Shape lock is a great product. It's a plastic. When heated, it forms together, and then when it cools, it hardens. So you can shape it into pretty much anything. Paper, cardboard, and foam board. These are materials that are great for making quick and easy prototypes. There is no need for special tools or equipment to work with these materials. So obviously, that shoe is not going to be a functional shoe, but it gives you the general idea of how it's going to look. So these are great for prototypes you can take a picture of and give the kind of the look and feel of the product. Wood and hardware. So wood is is great because you can easily cut it, shape it, fasten things to it. And just to give you an idea of the types of wood, oak is a real heavy and hard wood. It's strong, and it is actually hard to shape since it's strong and firm. Balsa wood is light, fragile, and easy to shape. You can pretty much cut balsa wood with a butter knife, and you can sand it into whatever shape you want, but it's pretty fragile. You can glue, nail, screw hardware to the wood objects. So wood, you have a lot of possibilities with wood. Plastic. You can trim and drill ABS, PVC, polycarbonate, polyamide plastics with hand tools. You can fuse plastics together with heated tools and plastic welding rods. With clear acrylics and polycarbonate, use cement to bond one piece to another. So you can glue them or cement them together to create different products. So plastics are a great way to build prototypes. Construction kits. So erector sets are excellent in modeling structures and moving parts. So if you have moving parts, erector sets are great because you can clip things together, screw things together, and make moving parts. So many sets have gears, pulleys, belts, and hinges. Many parts in the kits resemble common off-the-shelf parts like bolts, nuts, angle iron, or plate steel. Make the transition from prototype to product fast. So if you can get your hands on some construction kits, that's a great way to prototype. Art supplies. Art supplies are great because you can sand, drill, and paint modeling clay that hardens in the oven and plastics that dry in the air. These materials work best for free-forming shapes or complex shapes. Shape Lock, as I discussed earlier, is a great product that becomes pliable when you heat it. Casting and molding kits. So casting kits are great for creating multiple copies of parts from plaster, epoxy, or resin. These kits are generally used for smaller, more complex, and detailed shapes. There's many YouTube videos that you can find on casting, so you can create your own mold, and then you can create your prototypes that way. Computer-aided design, CAD. So CAD does require some skills to be able to use these programs, but once you create a project, you can then print it out with a 3D printer. So some of the websites you can go to use some CAD software is tinkercad.com and sketchup.com. So check out these programs if you're interested in CAD. Here's an example of a product that was done on Tinkercad. You could simply print this product out if you had a 3D printer. Hiring a freelancer to do your virtual 3D renderings or CAD drawings is a great choice. To find some freelancers that specialize in these areas, you can go to Fiverr.com, or you can also pick Upwork.com. Check them both out to see which one you like best. Here is an example of Fiverr.com. So you can basically go onto the website, type whatever service you need, and you can find all the designers that are capable of that. And typically you can find out what they charge for the services. You can look at the reviews that they have. You can look at their different examples of their product line, and that's a great way to pick a freelancer. So here's a specific freelancer that's doing 3D CAD modeling. So he charges $100, and you'd have to look into the details to see exactly what that gets you. But for $100, you can have a CAD drawing model made. 3D printer. 3D printers have come down in price. A typical 3D printer could range anywhere from $200 on the low end to $5,000 and obviously you can get them more expensive than that, but in general, 2,000 to 5,000 is kind of the range. The 3D printer on the right, that is a CR10. I actually have that printer and it does great. I think you can pick them up for under $500. So if you don't have a 3D printer and you would like a 3D printed product, what I would suggest is you go to Fiverr and you get the CAD made up, or maybe you do your own CAD, and then you could actually hire a company to print your CAD. You would simply upload the model and choose materials, and they would print it and ship it out to you. So two of the websites that you could check out are shapeways.com and Pinocchio.com. Another way is finding a community workspace. They're also called hacker spaces or maker spaces. For a small monthly fee, you can gain access to equipment that manufacturers use to produce products. The staff is usually helpful and gives new members the training needed to use the tools and equipment. You can search for a list of locations near you at hackerspaces.org. So if you have a hackerspace near you and you've got a product that you think you need some help with, then this is a great option for you. Skilled trade hobbyist organizations. Okay, so if you have some organizations, some hobbyist groups in your area, then what I recommend, you can look in this scenario, you look for clubs formed around skilled trades: welding, metalworking, woodworking, machining, electronics, or software development. Members work on projects together, buy and sell used equipment at discounted rates. They attend meetups to learn from craftsmen who can advise you when you get stuck. Look through popular directories for machinists, woodworkers, handmade crafts, electronics, and software developers user groups. So look for your nearest skilled trade group. And finally, you can find an actual manufacturer that'd be willing to make your product. Thomasnet.com is a great place to find manufacturers. So that concludes step number 3. And coming up next is step number 4, the marketing. You're going to learn how to prepare the marketing material for your product. Thanks.